Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Dalton Brown. I am here with today's episode of Touch 'em All, presented by Sports Map Elite. Running solo today. Got a lot of baseball to run through, so excited to dive through the games. We do have one game that starts up here in about 7 minutes. That's going to be White Sox Guardians. So I'll go ahead and run through that one before I dive into any promo and any of the must-haves. So without further ado, Game one between the White Sox and Guardians. It's going to be Mr. Martin on the mound for the White Sox. I forget his first name, but it starts with a D. He is a rookie. He's made about 21 total innings so far. He's making the start against Shane Bieber for the Guardians. Bieber obviously has seen the White Sox quite a bit in his career. The Cleveland Guardians are a minus 160 favorite in this spot. White Sox plus 140 on the road. Total over under 8. I don't have a bet here. I wanted to make sure that we at least covered the game. I do lean to the White Sox on the money line. White Sox plus 140. Reason being, you look at Bieber. He did pitch pretty well against the White Sox back in April, but he has allowed 3 or more runs in 5 straight starts. So this is not exactly a guy who's been lighting things up. The stuff has taken a small step back this year. And over his last 5 starts, he's actually averaging about 7 hits against him per start. He's allowed 8 walks over his last 3 starts as well, so he hasn't exactly been commanding the zone, and he's got an ERA well over 4 at home. So I actually think he's in a pretty gettable spot here. I typically don't look to play the White Sox against righties, but they've been hitting them a lot better of late. You look at what the White Sox have done. They have a 115 WRC plus against righties since mid-June. That's a lot better than normal. Cleveland right around average against righties, but big reason that I kind of lean the White Sox all day today. Cleveland's bullpen, 7.85 ERA in July. They've just been getting lit up of late. If they can't get Emmanuel Clase into the game, a lot of the other guys have been struggling quite a bit. So I don't necessarily have, super high expectations for the rookie starter. He'll probably only give you 3 or 4 innings. I wouldn't keep the expectations terribly high. I could also lead an over here, but overall, I just think Cleveland's bullpen and actually Shane Bieber really hasn't been that great. So I lean toward Chicago here, but not really a game I'm eager to play. As you guys will see as we go through it today, there's a lot more on the board that I actually think is a little bit more worth going through. So that's the 110 game. No action for me, but figured I'd at least touch on it. So just to kind of reset the show here, BC not with me today, but he's been incredibly hot on baseball. I finally snapped my cold streak. I've got a streak of 4 out of the last 5 winning days. So back to humming here. I'm up over 27 units on the season. The grind never stops. We're only about halfway through, so I got plenty of time to lose it or build on it, hoping to do the latter. But it's really, if you go over to Sports Map Elite, we've got a team of people who are really talented. Even guys like Chris Dell and Joe Spano with the work they do on NFL and NBA. Michael Abla, the work he's been doing on UFC has been awesome. So really, it's a whole team of talented guys. And if you can pony up $19.99 a month, unless your unit size is like a cent, you're probably going to do pretty darn well in terms of a return on that investment. So I highly suggest checking it out at sportsmapelite.com. Good chance to build your bankroll a little bit and have some fun along the way. So without further ado, we'll dive into the regular rotation of games here. Next one down the board is going to be 9-5-1 Pirates at 9-5-2 Marlins. First game on the National League board today. We're going to be looking at Chris Stratton getting a start for the Pirates here today. He's been mostly a relief arm for them. He'll be taking on Daniel Castano for the Marlins. Marlins moderate favorite here, minus 150, total over under 8.5, so kind of right down the middle. Pirates won yesterday's game 5-1. Got a good start out of Mitch Keller, who has been kind of trending up recently. Looking at today, Stratton being on the mound, to me that just signifies it's going to be a full-on bullpen game for Pittsburgh. He has been a starter perhaps in the past, so I could see a scenario where they ask him to go 2 or 3 innings, but realistically, you're looking at a lot of Pittsburgh's bullpen, and it hasn't been good recently. This is a unit with a 7.34 ERA in July. If you look at them on the full season, they're 28th in baseball. So good chance for Miami's offense to maybe get going a little bit here. I think they make sense as a moderate favorite. You look at Miami's bullpen on the flip side; they've been pretty good. 2.86 ERA in July. On the season, not necessarily so great, but looking at the flip side with Daniel Castano on the mound for Miami, this is a guy, he got absolutely blown out by the Mets in his last start. He did have a couple, he did have a strong outing against them in the one before that, but you look at what he's done recently. His last 19 innings over his last 4 starts, we're looking at 15 runs. That's a 6.05 ERA over that span. So not really a guy I want to put my money behind. Pirates, for what it's worth, don't hit lefties very well. So if there was ever a spot for a lefty like him to kind of recover, this might be it. So I'm a little bit intrigued by the total going over, but it's just tough. These are two offenses who are not trustworthy. Marlins Park can be a bit cavernous. So I'm not really seeing value anywhere here. It's not a particularly interesting game to me. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on this one. But the next game I find a hell of a lot more interesting, and that's going to be 9-5-3 New York Mets at 9-5-4 Atlanta Braves. I've got the Braves hat on today. Good indication that I do have money on Atlanta in this game. Braves sending Spencer Strider to the mound against David Peterson for the Mets. Lefty against a righty. Peterson, he's been pretty good this year. Strider has been excellent. That's been pretty well covered by the baseball media. Braves minus 159. I'm seeing the Mets at plus 139, over under 8.5 here. I like Atlanta in the first 5 innings on the run line. I think this is a good spot for Spencer Strider to continue doing what he's been doing. Just kind of take a look through his dominance here. He had one ugly outing against San Francisco last month where he gave up about 6 runs. To me, with it only being the one and with it being bookended with a whole bunch of good ones, I kind of throw that out. If you do throw that out, you're looking at a guy with a 1.08 ERA since the start of June. Even if you do include it, his ERA is under 2.5 since the start of June. So, he's just been really good any way you look at it. Obviously, if you look at his Savant page, the stuff plays. The Mets they've cooled off quite a bit against righties too. If you look at where they were early in the season versus where they are now, they're 21st in baseball since June 15th against right-handed pitching with a WRC plus of just 94. So it's a lineup that's become fairly gettable. Both these bullpens have been good in July, both top 10. So I think, if you want to target Atlanta, I think first 5 is really where that advantage lies. And I think it's definitely there. Atlanta has cooled off a little bit against lefties as well, but this is a team that has played better baseball than the Mets for the last, 4 to 6 weeks at the very least. They're right there in the division. I think, you're probably going to see this division go back and forth as the season goes along. One of the things that makes me really like the Braves here in the first 5 innings, they've had a lot of success against David Peterson. This is a guy, he faced Atlanta back on May 3rd, allowed 4 runs in just 5 innings of work, including, 4 hits, 3 walks, gave up a homer to Matt Olson. He's actually allowed 3 or more runs in 5 of his last 8 starts, so he's been a little shaky. He has been a little bit better on the road, which is kind of quirky, but Atlanta's killed him. They've scored 9 runs off him in 7.2 innings last year as well. So I think this is just a good spot for Atlanta to get a little revenge after yesterday. I think Strider keeps doing what he does, and you're probably looking at 3-1, 4-0, something like that. Atlanta through 5. So give me the Braves first 5 innings minus the half run. Moving into the next game, we've got the Los Angeles Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals. My Los Angeles Dodgers have been red hot. They've won 6. They're 16-4 in their last 20. 10-1 over their last 11 games. Just finished up a pretty incredible homestand. Schedule has eased up a little bit, but within that, they did took 2 out of 3 from Atlanta, 3 out of 4 from San Diego. So just overall, Dodgers have kind of turned it around, playing really good baseball. Part of that is a guy like Mitch White, who they're sending to the mound today. Dodgers going to be a pretty small favorite here. I'm showing minus 141. Cardinals plus 121 at home, over under 8.5 here. It's kind of one team that's hot, one team that's not. Looking at the flip side of the Cardinals, they're 4-8 in their last 12. They played the NL East in all of those games and got pushed around a little bit. So, they're not necessarily in great shape, but the Cardinals bullpen does rank number 1 in baseball in the month of July with an ERA of 1.03. So if Matthew Liberatore can get to that bullpen with the game tight, the Cardinals' chances probably get a little better. I'm just not convinced necessarily of his ability to do so. This is a guy, he's made 6 starts so far this year. He's had 3 awful starts and actually 3 really good starts. He's yet to give up an earned run at home, which is a little weird. This guy with a 7.88 ERA on the road. He is pitching at home tonight, so that could work in his advantage, but I'm not really ready to consider that, something that I'm going to gamble based off of yet. We're looking at 6 total data points there. His Savant page says that he's awful. He's been walking a ton of hitters, a lot of hard contact against him. He's never made more than 5 innings in a start. So, I think this is a tough spot for him. The Dodgers have actually started hitting lefties well, something that we haven't seen a lot from them over the last couple of years. They're up to a 120 WRC plus in that split. That's since June 15th. So, really hot team, hot lineup against lefties. I'm concerned for the Cardinals there. And then you look at Mitch White for the Dodgers. This is a guy who's been a hell of a lot better than the way he's perceived. We're looking at a 2.54 ERA since May 26th. And he's faced some good lineups over that span. He's taken on the Braves, the Padres, the White Sox, the Rockies. His expected ERA for the season, right around 3.75. So, nothing earth-shattering, but he's been a decent average to maybe slightly above average starter, which I don't think is what the Dodgers expected to get from a guy who's really their number 7 or number 8 option. So, it's been good to see him trending upward. St. Louis has been right around average against righties since June 15th. Some of their better hitters are right-handed, so could work to Mitch White's favor here. All in all, I think the Dodgers as a minus 140 favorite's about right. The Cardinals do have the advantage in the bullpen, so not really eager to play this game one way or another, but I will certainly be watching it. Continuing on, we've got 9-5-7 San Diego Padres and 9-5-8 Colorado Rockies continuing their series from Coors Field. Heartbreaking loss for me last night. I had over 11.5, and that game ended 6-5 with the Rockies threatening in the bottom of the 9th. Onward to today, we've got Mike Clevenger on the mound for the Padres, taking on Austin Gomber for the Rockies. Another over-under here of 11.5. Once again, Padres a small favorite, minus 131. Rockies plus 111 at home. 8:40 start time, Eastern time there. Mike Clevenger, he did get touched a little bit the one time he pitched at Coors Field this year. Only lasted 2 innings, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits. Bob Melvin went and got him out of that one quick. His June overall was really good, though. I think this is if you look at his Savant page, it's all pretty well above average. So you could make an argument that this is pretty close to the Mike Clevenger the Padres thought they were getting. He has pitched really well. His last start against Seattle was a bit shaky. Did get through 6 innings, but allowed 4 earned runs. Expected ERA for him on the season right around 3.5. So pretty well in line with his actual stats. I think he's a guy you can have reasonably high expectations for moving forward. We'll see what happens with him today at Coors. Obviously, that's a tough thing to really predict. Austin Gomber has been terrible. Walks. He doesn't walk a lot of hitters. He does keep exit velocity somewhat down, but just allows tons of barrels, doesn't miss enough bats, doesn't strike anybody out. And in Colorado, where hitting for contact really can help a team, it's just not a good situation for him. You look at his last few starts, he's allowed 3 or more earned runs in 4 of his last 5, pitched to an ERA of 9 in the month of June. So not a ton of positive to go off of here for Gomber. I certainly lean toward the Padres on the money line at minus 130. That might be a bet I end up making by the end of the night, but we'll wait and see on that. Padres, what keeps me off of them in the initial look at it, they are 23rd against lefties since June 15th. They haven't been hitting quite as well in that split. And San Diego's bullpen is 27th in the month of July right now in ERA. So I don't know. They look pretty shaky last night too. They had a big lead, almost blew it against the Rockies. So I think a lot of times these games at Coors can be really high variance, and sometimes you don't want to mess with them unless you really know what you're doing. So that's kind of where I'm at here. I'm just staying away. Last all National League game on the board. We've got the Diamondbacks and the Giants tonight from Oracle Park in San Francisco. That's 959-960 on the betting board. It's going to be Dallas Keuchel on the mound for the Diamondbacks, taking on Logan Webb for the Giants. Giants, massive favorites here. I had them at minus 220. Arizona plus 200, over under 8. My first glance here said San Francisco minus 1.5. Just lay the lumber with them on the run line, and I'm sticking with it. I like San Francisco minus 1.5. I got that at minus 110. I'll give you, some reasons why. Arizona's not hitting righties well. Bottom third of the league, 22nd since against righties in WRC plus since June 15th. San Francisco is slightly above average against lefties, sitting right around plus 105. Neither bullpen's really pitched well of late, but the big advantage for San Francisco here is in the starting pitching. Logan Webb has allowed 0 or 1 earned run in 4 of his last 5 starts. He has a 2.63 ERA at home this year. Dating back into last year, he almost never loses at Oracle Park. I like the fact that San Francisco is coming off a loss last night. I also like the fact that Arizona hasn't seen Logan Webb in 2022 and really only have seen him once ever. They saw him once last year. He dominated them for 5 innings, only allowed 1 hit. So I think this is a game where Logan Webb probably cruises for a while. And I think it'll allow San Francisco to only use their high leverage relievers with a lead late in the game. I think they should be in control here. And really, it's a good opportunity to fade Dallas Keuchel. Anybody who has followed his season knows how terrible it's been generally. He pitched okay in his last start, which was actually kind of nice for me. I predicted that. But still, 7 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. Not bad. The big thing for him is he didn't walk anybody there. Did still allow 7 hits. But as a general rule, I'm not about to jump on the Dallas Keuchel train. This is still a guy who's been lit up pretty much all season long. One interesting note here on top of just taking the Giants minus 1.5 on the run line, I also like the Giants to score first if you have that available. I got that at minus 125. Dallas Keuchel's allowed 12 runs in 11 first innings this year. So you get Logan Webb at home. You're getting a discount here, obviously, with the home team scoring first because they don't get to bat first. But I think Logan Webb's going to throw a scoreless top of the first inning. Top of Arizona's lineup isn't anything terribly, scary. So as long as you can get through that top of the first, then it feels like San Francisco should be closer to minus 200 to score first. So I like the Giants minus 125 to score first here. I'll gladly eat crow if the Diamondbacks, pop a homer off them in the top of the first. Moving down the line, obviously we're skipping over 961, 962. We covered that. That game just started a few minutes ago. 963 Red Sox at 964 Rays as we move into the AL East. Chris Sale making his season debut for Boston against Corey Kluber for Tampa Bay. I'm showing Boston as a slight favorite here, minus 117. Rays right around even money at home. Over under 7.5 in this one. Chris Sale has obviously been in the news over the last week. His rehab start, very well known that it did not go well based off of him, tearing things off of walls in the Worcester Red Sox clubhouse area. The way he handled the media was really kind of weird. Blaming the fact that somebody caught it on camera. I mean, I get it, right? Like that is supposed to be a private area back there, but it's also fair to criticize him for tearing up minor league facilities when you've got guys who already have it kind of rough down there. But regardless, what it does tell me is he's been struggling a little bit in his rehab outings, and he's actually struggled against Tampa Bay a bit in the past as well. This is a Tampa Bay team that's 114 WRC plus against lefties since June 15th. So they hit lefties pretty well. They might greet him kind of rudely here. He made 2 starts against Tampa last year, 7 runs and 16 hits and 9.2 innings of work. Not exactly dominant whatsoever. Tampa also hit him okay back in 2019. Obviously, that's a long time ago. But, either way, I think this is a spot where Tampa should score a little bit. What keeps me off Tampa right around even money is actually the way that Boston's handled Corey Kluber too. He threw 5 innings against them in April, allowed 11 hits, 4 runs in those 5 innings. He did hold them scoreless in his last start on July 6th. But look, this is a Boston team that hits righties really well. They're riding momentum after winning the last 2 games of that series with New York. So them seeing the same starting pitcher who has pretty average stuff at this point in his career in Corey Kluber, I don't trust Kluber to be able to keep them off the board. If anything, I like an over here. 7.5 seems a little low. It's not a bet that I've made yet, but I might. I typically stay away from overs at Tropicana Field, but may end up going there here. So stay tuned. I'm actually leaning toward probably making that bet. So watch my Twitter. We'll see what happens. Moving on down the line, 965 Chicago White Sox, 966 Cleveland Guardians. This is game 2 of the doubleheader from Cleveland today. This game is going to be Dylan Cease on the mound against Connor Pilkington for the Guardians. White Sox, decent-sized favorites here. I think this is one, and let me make sure I actually give you the odds here. We're looking at the White Sox minus 160, Cleveland plus 145, over under 8.5. Dylan Cease on the mound is absolutely a guy that I want to be backing right now. He did struggle against Cleveland, but that was back in April. He's really turned his season around since then. 3 earned runs total over his last 8 starts. I'll go ahead and just let that sink in for a second. 3 total earned runs over 8 starts. Now, look, one of those was a start where he had 6 earned runs against him, so it is worth noting. But generally speaking, he's been completely dominant over the last really 2 months. He still walks too many hitters, but the stuff is undeniable. The way he's been avoiding getting hit is undeniable. And Cleveland's not exactly a great lineup. I like the White Sox here, first 5 innings, minus half a run. I think that's pretty cheap when you've got Dylan Cease going up against a lefty. We know what the White Sox have historically done to lefties over the last couple of years. The other thing here, Cleveland's bullpen, I mentioned in the other game, Cleveland's bullpen is 7.85 in July. So I don't hate pressing on the White Sox full game run line either. I just think I'd rather stay with Dylan Cease, not get involved with the White Sox bullpen. Looking at Pilkington specifically, 3 or 4 earned runs in 4 straight starts. He's walked 10 and given up 22 hits over those 4 starts. So not really fooling anybody. White Sox, first 5 innings, minus half a run. I think you can get it right around minus 120. I think that's way too cheap. White Sox game 2, that's going to be a bet for me on the run line, first 5 innings. 967 Oakland A's at 968 Texas Rangers. This is the game that all of America is going to be tuned into tonight. Just a massive pitching matchup between James Kaprielian and Glenn Otto in Texas. Rangers minus 163 on the money line. A's plus 143, over under 8.5 here. I think I lean toward the full game over, and I really lean toward Texas team total over 4.5 here. That's a bet that I will probably again. That's a bet I haven't made yet, but I think I might. A lot of it's just a fade of James Kaprielian. This is a guy he faced Texas back on May 29th, 4 1/3, 4 earned runs. You look at his recent results, and they'll lead you to believe that he's really turned a corner. 12 innings pitched, 2 earned runs in July. His last 2 starts in June weren't necessarily terrible either. Still, though, this is a guy who's walked 18 hitters in his last 5 starts. He's sabotaging himself by not being able to throw strikes. His baseball savant page is still one of the ugliest you'll see from a starting pitcher. His expected ERA is well over 5. And this is a Texas team that is slightly above average against righties since mid-June. They've been hitting them pretty well. And we know Oakland's bullpen is not exactly great. So I think Texas will have plenty of opportunity to score runs here, especially if James Kaprielian keeps putting runners on. Corey Seager's been on fire. Marcus Semion's been hitting well. So, I think they'll get after Kaprielian a little bit. You look at Texas; they are 6-2 against Oakland this year. They've covered the minus 1.5 run line in all 6 of those wins. That was kind of my first look here. Glenn Otto for Texas is ultimately what keeps me off of it. He's just been terrible overall. His savant page reflects that. He's well below average virtually everywhere. 17 walks in his last 5 starts. So same story as Kaprielian. This is just a guy who doesn't throw enough strikes. He's got a 7.31 ERA in 4 starts since the beginning of June. So I think neither starter here is a guy that you really want to back. If you had to back a side, I'd say maybe Texas on the run line, but I'd be more interested here in actually taking the over or the Texas Rangers team total over 4.5 if you don't want to get involved with Oakland's ugly offense against righties. On to the next. I do have a bet here, 969 Detroit Tigers at 970 Kansas City Royals. I am on the Tigers on the road here at even money. They're going to be about plus 100. Royals minus 122. Actually, I'm showing the Tigers at plus 105 now. Royals minus 125. Over under 8.5 in this one. 8:10 start time Eastern time. These two teams played a doubleheader yesterday. Kansas City won both of them. They scored most of their runs off Detroit's two starters. Who Pineda and Fado didn't pitch particularly well. They also got after Alex Lang a little bit, who I don't think they'll see tonight. Overall, though, Detroit's bullpen is 6th in baseball in the month of July with an ERA of 2.11. That includes yesterday. Kansas City's is 26th. Kansas City's also 19th against righties since 615, a little bit below average, 94 WRC plus. But really what gets me on Detroit here, they're 3rd in baseball with a 135 WRC plus against righties since June 15th. They're also facing Chris Bubich, who is one of the worst starters in Major League Baseball. He owns the Astros. I don't know why. Whatever, I get it. I am totally fine with losing money in that spot where I'd bet it again. But he also has pitched fairly well against Detroit this year somehow. But look, this is a guy with 9 walks in 10 innings pitched in July. He's also allowed 9 hits over that span. He's still not exactly, keeping guys off base. He's really just been kind of dancing around and getting outs when he needs them. I don't think that necessarily continues. Baseball Savant looks at him as I think the outright worst starting pitcher in baseball outside of maybe Yohan Adon. He's got an expected ERA of 6.27. He's got a 7.77 ERA at home. I just don't get it here. I don't understand Detroit being an underdog. Bo Brieski's been okay. This is a guy he threw 6 innings, 3 earned against Kansas City 2 starts ago. He's had up and down results this year, but I think it's safe to say he's in an upswing right now. He's been pretty good of late. Baseball Savant doesn't like him a whole lot more than it likes Bubich, but at least he throws strikes. He's not going to give away base runners the way Bubich will. So the way I look at this is pretty simple. I give the starting pitching advantage to Detroit. I give the bullpen advantage in a big way to Detroit. And I think if you look at the matchups with Detroit getting to face a lefty, Kansas City facing a righty, pretty clear lineup advantage to Detroit as well. So I don't love backing Bo Brieski, but in this spot, I just don't understand Detroit being an underdog. I think plus 105 is great value for a team that I think should be minus 120, minus 125. So give me Detroit on the money line, plus 105. I've got another bet in this one, 971 Houston Astros at 972 Anaheim Angels, who are not playing tonight's game in Los Angeles either. They're still playing down in Anaheim. So don't listen to what they tell you. Astros minus 123 favorites here. Angels are plus 103 at home. Over under 8.5. This is my only 2-unit play on the day as of now is on the Astros money line minus 123. That's just incredibly cheap here when you look at what these two teams have been doing. The Astros have been one of the better teams in baseball all season. They're tied with the Dodgers for the second best record in the league. The Angels, I think, are like 11-31 since their hot start. They just got swept on the road in Baltimore. The bullpen is a mess. The lineup is a mess. Both teams are facing righties here, so that's an easy point to compare off the top. Houston, number 1 in baseball against righties since June 15th. Anaheim, 29th in baseball against righties since June 15th. That's a 139 WRC plus against a 76 WRC plus. Now let's look at the bullpens. Houston's bullpen ranks 4th in July. Anaheim's ranks 25th. Huge bullpen advantage. So the way I look at it, if we're going to get to this game having a line anywhere near Houston minus 123, right, that's a real small favorite. If we're going to get anywhere near there, it's got to be a huge starting pitching advantage for Anaheim. Well, with Luis Garcia and Noah Syndergaard, I don't get there. Garcia pitched pretty well against Anaheim the one time he faced him this year. 5 2/3, 3 earned runs, got the win. He's had up and down results really since the start of June. He had one shaky July start, but overall, I think he's kind of a what you see is what you get guy. He's not going to blow you away. He's a fairly average, maybe slightly above average major league starter. He does have an expected ERA per Savant of 3.69, so you could argue that he has been a little bit unlucky. He faced Anaheim quite a bit last year, 4.1 ERA over 26.2 innings, so pretty average, run-of-the-mill stuff. One encouraging thing with him, 2.37 ERA away from Minute Maid Park. So he likes getting out on the road and pitching. Um, Flip side with Noah Syndergaard, he did pitch well against Houston opening weekend, pitched into the sixth, didn't give up any runs. Overall, really mixed results, though. I think he has a pretty similar resume to what we've seen with Luis Garcia. He does have a strong preference toward pitching at home, so maybe that works in his favor here a little bit. But this is not exactly a guy who, is head and shoulders better than Garcia. I might understand this line if this was Ohtani on the mound, but it's not. It's Noah Syndergaard, and it's this version of Noah Syndergaard that doesn't throw 99 anymore. So I needed a massive starting pitching advantage for Anaheim for this line to make any sense. I certainly don't think I have that. So Houston minus 123, that's going to be a 2-unit play. That's my most confident of the day. This line doesn't make any sense. This is an Anaheim team that's absolutely in a free fall and an Astros team that's pretty damn good. So keep it simple, and it's going to be Astros on the money line. Moving on, 9-7-3 Seattle Mariners at 9-7-4 Washington Nationals. We're getting into some fun interleague matchups here. I don't remember a time when I've ever seen these two teams play each other. Chris Flexen on the mound for the Mariners, Josiah Gray on the mound for the Nationals. Mariners, very small favorites here, minus 115. Nats minus 105 at home, over under 9.5. This game gave me kind of similar feelings to the Houston-Anaheim game, where you look at it and you go, okay, this is a Seattle team that's won 8 in a row. They're playing great baseball. This is a Washington team that's lost 10 of their last 11. They're awful. The bullpen can't stop anybody. And so you go, okay, well, is there a massive starting pitching advantage here? Not massive, but there is an advantage. This is a Seattle team that's been really hot, obviously. And you look at Chris Flexen, all right? Look, I'm not high on this guy at all. His Savant page has suggested that he's due negative regression all year. I think we've seen a lot of that show up recently. But he has been decent. He hasn't allowed any more than 3 runs in any of his last 8 starts. So he avoids getting blown up. He keeps Seattle in the game, which the way their offense has been playing late in games, coming back against Toronto's bullpen over and over, that's pretty meaningful. He did throw 6 2/3 shutout innings, got well into the 7th against San Diego his last time out. That's a better lineup than he's going to see from Washington tonight. So, look, he's got a 5.08 expected ERA. Baseball Savant's not impressed at all, but this is a Washington team that's 24th in baseball against righties since June 15th. So they're not exactly, the biggest challenge in the world. I think he could pitch pretty well here. But even if he doesn't, I think there's a big bullpen advantage when you get late in this game. Seattle's bullpen's been dominant so far in July. 1.27 ERA this month. That's second in MLB behind the Cardinals against the Washington bullpen that ranks about 19th. So, and I even think that 19th, I don't think they're that good. So, big advantage for Seattle as the game goes along here. Looking at Josiah Gray on the bump for Washington, he did have a breakout month in June. He was awesome. 1.13 ERA over 4 starts. Washington, starting to see some flashes of what they traded away Max Scherzer and Trey Turner for. He just hasn't carried that into July. His 2 starts in July really haven't been very good. I think he's given up 16 hits over those 2 starts. Washington, is certainly not playing well. But one of the things that scares me with Josiah Gray, 6.42 ERA at home. And especially with these young guys, when you can see a clear preference to them pitching home or pitching on the road, I think it's a little more meaningful than when you see it with like a 34-year-old. So, the way I look at it is this. They're the way harder team. They have a huge bullpen advantage. The lineup's certainly better and been better against right-handed pitching. I give a small edge to Washington in the starting pitching with Josiah Gray. He's certainly talented enough to go out and dominate. But overall, this game being this close to a pick-em, I can't get there. It's not quite as fervent as I am on the Astros minus 120, but I like the Mariners minus 115 quite a bit. So it's going to be a 1-unit play for me there. You got a team that's won 8 in a row against a team that's lost 10 out of 11. I'm going to ride the hot hand unless I have a damn good reason not to. Moving into New York Yankees versus Cincinnati Reds from the Bronx, 9-7-5, 9-7-6. The exciting interleague matchups continue. This is going to be Graham Ashcraft on the mound for the Reds taking on Garrett Cole. Yankees' biggest favorite on the board, minus 300. Reds plus 250, over under 8 runs here. Look, the Yankees should be a big favorite here. They're really good. They haven't had any injuries, whatever. They're fifth in baseball against righties since mid-June. They're taking on a guy in Graham Ashcraft who's got an ERA well over 4 on the road, so he's who's got an ERA well over 7 since about mid-June. So this is a guy they should be able to get after. It's a really tough assignment for him, and I think look, his results were really good early on, and then the whole league seems to have figured him out. So I think the Yankees should score here with ease. I really wanted a team total with them over 4.5. Still kind of intrigued at 5.5, partially because if the Yankees have a lead, you're going to see some absolute minor league arms coming out of that Cincinnati bullpen late in the game. It's clear advantages all over the place, right? I mean, Garrett Cole, he did get the win against Boston, but he got crushed by them again, give up another 5 runs. He's got a 2.31 ERA at home, so he should be pretty comfortable here. Cincinnati 28th against righties since June 15th. So good spot for Garrett Cole to get right. I think he probably will. Obviously, big bullpen advantage for the Yankees. That kind of goes without saying. They got the day off after the series in Boston, which I'm sure they really appreciated. So, look, I think the Yankees should be a huge favorite here. I'm not going to bet the game unless I, maybe dabble on the Yankees team total. I do see value on this next interleague game. 9-7-7 Phillies at 9-7-8 Blue Jays. Phillies throwing a bullpen game out there, starting with a fellow named Bellotti. Blue Jays going with Jose Barrios. Blue Jays big favorites here, minus 185. Phillies plus 170, over under 9.5 runs. I'm just trying to figure out why Toronto is such a massive favorite in this game. I just don't see it. Jose Barrios, this is a guy he's been pretty terrible this season. His baseball savant page, puts his expected ERA around 6. He hasn't avoided hard contact at all. He's walked a ton of he hasn't walked a ton of hitters, but he's walked more hitters than you'd expect. He's just been bad a lot more often than he's been good. And this is a Toronto team that's lost 9 out of 10 games. They have 2 wins so far in July. I get that Toronto's got a great roster, but minus 185 with Jose Barrios on the mound, the way he's been pitching, I don't see it at all. I think part of it's because the Phillies are going with a bullpen game, and there's still this idea out there that the Philly bullpen is absolutely awful, and I get it. The Phillies bullpen isn't great, but they have a 1.62 ERA in July. That's good for third in baseball, right behind the Cardinals and the Mariners. They've actually been pretty good for a good bit of June too. They've had some guys that have really started throwing strikes, like Jose Alvarado. Seranthony Dominguez has been pretty good. So I think the Phillies bullpen can hold their own here. And you're giving me plus 1.5 around minus 120. I'm going to be on the Phillies on the run line to stay within a run and a half. Even if Toronto does have a one-run lead, they're not going to get those last up. So I like getting that plus 1.5 with a road team. Really, what it comes down to, you've got a capable offense and a team that's over 500 taking on Jose Barrios, and they're a big underdog. I don't know. Give me the Phillies plus 1.5. 9-7-9 Milwaukee Brewers at 9-8-0 Minnesota Twins. We've got a battle for the North here. I do have my last bet of the day on this game. It's going to be Jason Alexander on the mound for the Brewers against Josh Winder for the Twins. Over under 9. Twins small favorites minus 135. Brewers plus 115 on the road. I'm fading the Brewers here. I like the Twins first 5 innings. Minus half a run, that comes in at minus 110. Partially because I want to back Josh Winder. He hasn't been great, but there's some interesting splits with him. He spent sometimes the start of this year, sometimes as a reliever. He's really dominated when he's been in the rotation. He has a 1.71 ERA as a starter. You look at his last couple of starts since rejoining the rotation, 11 innings, just 2 earned runs against the White Sox and Guardians. So, I think this is a guy who he's not great, but he seems pretty comfortable in this role. And he's taken on a Milwaukee team that is just not playing well. They're 4-5 in July, which at face value, you go, whatever. But that's all been against the Pirates and the Cubs, the absolute, dredges of their division. So I think you're catching Milwaukee at a good time to catch Milwaukee here. They have a bullpen ERA of 4.35 so far in July. So even, their relative strength has not been a strength of late. Both teams have been hitting righties well. Minnesota a little bit better. They're third in baseball in that category. And really, it's a good opportunity to fade Jason Alexander. He was crushed by the Cubs in his last start. That was his first start since a stint that moved him back to the bullpen. But he really just has, regardless starting or in the bullpen, he hasn't been effective at all. He's got an ERA around 7.5 in his last 5 appearances. That dates back almost a month to June 18th. His Baseball Savant page is one of the ugliest you'll see in baseball as well. He's actually been really lucky with barrel rate, which is kind of what's kept his ERA in the mid-4s, when in reality it should be up closer to 6 if you look at his expected numbers. So I think, the Twins are tough at home. They've got a really good offense against righties. So I think Minnesota could get after Jason Alexander quite a bit early. I think Josh Winder will at least hold his own based on what we've seen from him as a starter. So I like Minnesota in the first 5 innings, laying the half run. That comes in at -110. Final game on the board tonight, Baltimore Orioles, the red-hot Baltimore Orioles at the Chicago Cubs from Wrigley. 8:05 Eastern time start time, 981, 982 on your betting board. Baltimore, it's been well covered, has won 8 straight. They're feeling really good about themselves, and they should. They just beat the hell out of the Angels for a full weekend in Baltimore. The Cubs were just 4 games swept in Los Angeles. They actually blew leads in 3 of those 4 games as well. So I don't think the Cubs are necessarily in their most confident state right now. Both these teams have been sort of middle of the road against righties since mid-June. Obviously, Baltimore's bullpen is a lot better than Chicago's. That's been a big strength for the Orioles as they've kind of turned it around. Jordan Lyles for Baltimore, he had an awful June. ERA well over 6. But he's been actually really good in his first 2 starts of July. 12.1 innings of work, 2 earned runs against the Twins and Angels, which, one of those lineups is good in Minnesota. Another one people think is good in Anaheim. So, good for him. He's been pitching a lot better. So, I don't hate the idea of backing Baltimore here at -105. I think that's pretty cheap for them against a Chicago team that's been in a bit of a nosedive. Cubs, over under here 9, by the way. That being said, looking at Lyles, ERA of almost 6 on the road this year. Wrigley can be kind of a tough place to pitch. His expected ERA for the season, 5.52. So not exactly a ton of confidence there. If anything, he's due negative regression. So not really itching to back Jordan Lyles. And Adrian Sampson's been pretty good for the Cubs. He's only made 21 2/3 innings. He's only pitched 21 2/3 innings this year. So, you take it with a grain of salt. But he has been pretty darn good. In July, 1 good start, 1 not so good. So I don't know. He's not really a guy I'm looking to back, but he's looked okay. So like I said, I lean Baltimore, but I don't really want to back Jordan Lyles. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on that game to end the day. So that was 16 games, bit of a whirlwind, went really quickly through them all. Let's recap the best bets that I've got for today. Quite a few of them. I like the Braves backing Spencer Strider, first 5 innings, -0.5 a run there. I like the Giants both to score first and to win the game by 2 or more runs, -1.5 on the run line. Great opportunity to fade Dallas Keuchel there against Logan Webb. White Sox, game 2. That's the night game tonight. First 5 innings, -0.5 a run. That's Dylan Cease and Connor Pilkington. Great opportunity to back the White Sox. I like Detroit +105 in Kansas City. Great chance to fade Chris Bubich again against a team that hits lefties well. Maybe this time it'll actually pan out for us. Houston Astros, big bet of the day, 2 units there, -123 against the Angels. Angels still getting priced as if they're the team that started the year at 27-17. I'm happy to take advantage of it. I did all weekend against Baltimore. I like the Mariners, -110 in Washington. Just a bit of, teams moving in different directions, mismatch. I could see Josiah Gray putting us in some trouble there, but give me Seattle -110. Philadelphia Phillies +1.5. Undeservingly a huge underdog today in Toronto against Jose Barrios. I think they'll score plenty to keep that within the number and maybe even win the game. And then Minnesota, I like the idea of backing Winder over Alexander here. I think they've got the better of the 2 rookie starters against Milwaukee. Milwaukee not really moving in the right direction. So give me Minnesota, first 5 innings, -0.5 a run. Those are the best bets for today. As I mentioned as we went along, there are a couple bets that I might be adding So stay tuned on my Twitter. That's at Dalton J. Brown on Twitter. I'll be updating my bets throughout the night. I will also be tweeting my random thoughts as I yell at the television as I watch them. Go Dodgers. Remember that the Angels play in Anaheim and not Los Angeles, and I'm sick of hearing them claim it. I will continue to say that, but appreciate anybody who joined. Looking forward to a fun, full slate of baseball tonight, and I'll see you Thursday.